There was once an island tangled in hostility, a small piece of land sitting between rivers, contested by two powerful neighbors. That island is Bolshoy Ussuriysky, in Chinese, Heixiazi Island, at the meeting of the Amur and Ussuri rivers. For decades, it was a symbol of distrust and danger between Russia and China. Today, it may be turning into something else, a symbol of cooperation under a new world order. To understand why that small island matters, we need to remember how bitter the Russia-China relationship once was. During the Cold War, they were not friends. In 1969, border clashes erupted, especially at Zhenbao, Damansky Island, on the Ussuri River. Chinese and Soviet troops fired at each other. Some died. The fight was more than about land. It was about pride, ideology, control. The world watched with fear, because two nuclear-armed communist states turning on each other was something no one wanted. But over time, both realized continuous confrontation over every small river island wasn't sustainable. In the years after the Soviet collapse, much changed. Russia and China both went through internal upheavals. In the 1990s and 2000s, they negotiated and agreed to demarcate their long border and more smoothly define who owns which island and rivers and where the dividing lines lie. A big example is Bolshoy Ussuriysky Island. As part of border deals, in 2008, Russia gave up a large part of that island to China, so the two sides each have a share now. That settled many of the old disputes, at least on paper. But now, something new is happening. Russia and China are talking about rebuilding, redeveloping, and turning this island and nearby lands into a zone of joint development. That means shared infrastructure, new roads, resorts, maybe even industries. This is not simply letting sleeping disputes rest. It is actively turning a former battleground into a place of partnership. In recent reports, Russia's Far Eastern officials have proposed making the island a special development area, perhaps giving incentives for people to move there and connecting it more closely with Chinese investors. There is talk of an international resort or cooperation in tourism, but these plans are delicate. In Chinese media, some netizens reacted strongly, hinting unease about ceding control or losing influence. This move is deeply strategic, not just economic. First, the island lies very close to Khabarovsk, a major Russian city on the Far East. Russia has long struggled to populate and economically develop its Far East territory. Harsh climate, distance from central Russia, and lack of infrastructure make it tough to attract people or businesses. In such a region, cooperating with China is tempting. So giving China a stake in development may bring investment, trade, infrastructure, and more connectivity. China, for its part, always covets better access to resources, transport routes, and influence in neighboring areas. Second, this development signals a shift in how Russia and China see each other. They are no longer rivals scrapping over borders, at least publicly. They are partners, confronting a world order where both face tension from the West. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the West has sanctioned Russia heavily. China remains one of Russia's few major partners willing to engage in trade, financial backing, and political support. Russia, needing options, leans more on China. But in this partnership, China often holds more cards. It is more economically powerful. So these joint development moves are not equal partnership in all senses. Russia may be conceding influence in some frontier zones to get stability, investment, and alignment. Third, there is a symbolic transformation. The same island that once was a flashpoint of gunfire and distrust is being remade into a space of cooperation. That changes narratives. It sends a message. We have settled our ancient disputes. We can build something new together. It reduces the potency of old fears that border disagreements might suddenly flare up again. It can help both governments legitimize their current closeness, domestically and internationally. Still, this turning of a battleground into a joint zone isn't easy or risk-free. For one, many Russians and Chinese have memories or nationalistic feelings about land that was once ours. Any perception that one side is giving away more becomes fodder for critics, especially in media or local communities. In Khabarovsk, some protested when Russia gave land to China in 2008. In China, some see this as Beijing giving too much away or accepting less than full ownership. Managing those feelings is tricky. Also, rights, governance, and legal rules become thorny. How will joint development be managed? Who sets rules? Who collects profits? Who enforces laws? Russia has said that the lands given for these development ideas will not be sold to foreigners so as to protect sovereignty. Another risk. If one side underperforms in development or investment, tensions may re-emerge. If Chinese firms dominate and Russian businesses lag, local Russian interests may feel sidelined. Fourth, there is a deeper message to the world. By redeveloping this island together, Russia and China show they are discarding the old template in which every frontier zone is a conflict zone and embracing a newer model, border zones as trade, transit, economic bridges. They want to reshape how border politics works, at least in their region. In doing so, they challenge assumptions of the Cold War era that borders must always be militarized and sour. Yet even as they do this, the ghost of old tensions lingers. The island was divided only after long negotiation, more than 40 years of conflict and discussion. When the Soviet Union fell, Russia and China had to reorient their approach. Instead of seeing each other as ideological threats, they began to see each other as power partners. Their growing military cooperation, bilateral exercises, arms sales, high-tech military ties, has also built trust or dependency. But that means China has to trust that Russia won't suddenly shift, and Russia must trust that China won't exploit its weaker side. One subtle truth is this: even though Russia is giving up parts of the island and cooperating with China, that is not the same as losing control. Russia still retains a share and can choose to emphasize its own development or control when it wants. The cooperation is flexible. Russia may signal that sovereignty remains incontestable while inviting collaboration. The idea is to blend security and development rather than sacrifice one entirely for the other. Another less obvious point: this island redevelopment may serve as a testing ground. If Russia and China succeed in managing a joint frontier zone without friction, the same model could be extended to other border areas, perhaps in Central Asia or in remote borderlands. It offers a template. When trust is high, contested spaces can become shared spaces. Finally, this effort also reflects a worldview, one that expects conflict with the West, values regional blocs, and prizes stability at the edges. These frontier zones matter less for their agricultural or urban value and more for signaling power, control of waterways, trade corridors, and influence. By working together on such zones, Russia and China are fortifying an alliance not just in the open, but literally at their borders. In short, the story of Russia and China rebuilding a Cold War island is about more than concrete or roads. It is about trust after conflict, about shifting global alliances, about balancing power and diplomacy. It is about turning a site of violence into a bridge for commerce, all while managing nationalism, sovereignty, and influence. For the common person, the lesson is, even the most bitter rivalries can evolve. Today's battlegrounds may become tomorrow's marketplaces, but only if politics, strategy, and will align just right.